Hi guys, today I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to get started with the Astrand Rhyming Nomogram. So the first thing that I wanted to say about this is we're going to be using the nomogram based off of some data that was collected previously from an Astrand Rhyming test on a female participant who was a well-conditioned individual. So this is somebody who's a regular exerciser. Because we had a conditioned female participating in this test, we set the workload or the resistance on the bike to 98 watts, which is the equivalent of 600 kilogram meters per minute. And the conversion factor to go between 98 watts and 600 kilogram meters per minute is 6.12 kilogram meters per minute, are in every 1 watt. So we had our participant pedal at this resistance here for a total of 6 minutes, collecting heart rates at the end of every minute. We then took the heart rate at the end of the 5th minute and the heart rate at the end of the 6th minute and found an average of those two values. And we called that heart rate the steady state heart rate. In this particular example, we had a steady state heart rate of 144 beats per minute. So now that the test is over, we can go look at the Astrand Rhyming Nomogram and use the nomogram and our data to find out what our participants' unage-adjusted predicted VO2 max is. So the first thing that we need to pay attention to on our nomogram is the fact that our participant is a female. And so because we're working with a participant who is a female, we need to pay attention to the female sections of the nomogram. So if you look up here at the top of the workload side of the nomogram, you'll see this little symbol here, a circle with a plus below it. That is the symbol for female. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that so we know that that's the one that we want. And if you look really carefully here, you can see a little circle with an arrow pointing off to the side. That's the symbol for male. So we're going to ignore that for this particular example because we are working with a female participant. If you shift over to the heart rate, or what the nomogram says is the pulse rate side of the figure, you'll see those same symbols. Again, the circle with the plus is the female side. The circle with the arrow is the male side. So because we were working with a female participant, we're going to pay attention to the heart rates listed on this side of our figure. Because we were working with a female participant, we're going to pay attention to the workloads in this middle section of the workload side of the nomogram. So now that we have that straight, we're going to start plotting our points. So we have here a workload of 98 watts. Again, 98 watts is the same as 600 kilogram meters per minute. So I'm going to find 600 kilogram meters per minute on my workload side of my nomogram. I'm going to put a circle around it. And then one of the things that's really tricky about using the Astrand Rhyming Nomogram is that we don't use this area here. We're just using this to find the workload. If you find 600 here in this example, you would then need to draw kind of a straight line over, and they already did this when they drew the nomogram. We're actually going to plot a point right here. So we're using the edge of the nomogram when we're plotting points. So I'm going to put a point right here for my workload. And again, I just saw the 600 for the female section for the workload, and I just drew a straight line over to this inside edge of the workload side of the nomogram. Over on the heart rate side of the nomogram, we're going to again be working on the female side. Find our steady state heart rate is 144 beats per minute, so that's this number right here. I'll put a circle around it so it doesn't get lost. And then we're going to put a point in the center of the heart rate side of the nomogram. So I'm going to put my little dot right there. And if you were doing this on a piece of paper, you would then get a ruler and draw a straight line from this point to this point. Since I'm doing this in a computer format, I am going to kind of change that up a little bit and use a line tool. So I'm going to start with one end of the line on my workload. That should be right. So start with one end on my workload point, and then I'm going to drag the other end of the line so it passes through the point that I drew for heart rate. And then I'm going to pay attention to this area right here. So I have the line that I drew passing through the line for predicted VO2 max here, right in the middle between 2.6 and 2.8. So halfway between 2.6 and 2.8 is 2.7. So my participants' unage adjusted predicted VO2 max is 2.7 liters per minute. And another thing worth noting here is that because our units are liters per minute, we know that this is an absolute VO2 max value. So I could say that their unage adjusted predicted absolute VO2 max is 2.7 liters per minute. So that is an explanation of how to use the Astrand Rhyming Nomogram to calculate someone's unage-adjusted predicted absolute VO2 max. This is going to be what you were asked to do in step 2 of your Astrand Rhyming Lab group assignment. In step 3 of your Astrand Rhyming Lab group assignment, you're going to be calculating an age correction factor. Here's a really simple list of age correction factors here. If you look in your assignments, I kind of walked you through step by step how to calculate a precise age adjustment factor or age correction factor. And then once you've kind of followed those steps and figured out what your correction factor should be, in step 3, you'll move on to step 4, where you will multiply that age correction factor that you calculated to this unage adjusted value right here. And that will give you your age adjusted predicted absolute VO2 max. So I think that just about wraps it up for this explanation of how to use the Astrand Rhyming Nomogram. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, or you can also ask any of our undergrad learning assistants for help. I will talk to you all later. Have a good day.